Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Welcome back, friends. Happy Thursday. This is Martine Williams, your Chief Encouragement Officer or CEO of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. This is episode number 26. And this is going to be just kind of a quick tip. I'm going to share with you two things that I use in the shower daily, weekly, depending on the week. And the reason I wanted to share these with you is because I think we overcomplicate a lot of things. I know, again, it's the new year. You're trying to kind of get your priorities in alignment, get your resolutions, your intentions, all of that. And sometimes we just overcomplicate self-care. We overcomplicate personal development. We overcomplicate business development. And so I just wanted to share with you these two things. And they may seem obvious, but they're really not. And, I talk a lot about protecting your biggest asset, which I believe is you. So whether you're a CEO, whether you are a stay-at-home mom full-time, like you have got to protect your biggest asset, which is you. You have to make yourself a priority and not feel guilty. No one's going to show up for you and do that for you. No one's going to show up and put in the reps for you. I wish they would sometimes at the gym, but no one's going to do that. So we have to take that responsibility to protect our biggest asset. And I think if we dig in a little deeper, it's protecting your mindset, because our behaviors are born in the mindset. So it's what we're thinking about. It's what goes in that comes out. And so two very simple ways that I protect my mindset fiercely is by what I allow in and what I allow into my mindset, allow into my ears. Like, what am I listening to? What am I reading? And the number one thing I hear women say is, I just don't have time for that, Martine. I'm too busy. And busy is a disease. It truly is a disease. And we just get so used to saying that word. And I've said this before, but I want to say it again. If you're new here, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Real Talk. And I might step on your toes a little bit today. But really, when we're saying we don't have time, what we're saying is it's just not a priority right now. Or when we say I'm too busy, what we're really saying is it's just not a priority for me right now. And so instead of saying I'm too busy to read a book, I'm too busy to listen to a podcast, I'm too busy to pause and write down some thoughts on a piece of paper, it's just not being made a priority. That's really what the bottom line is there. Whether you work 9 to 5 and you're working a side hustle, whether you have littles or you are a teen mom like I am, we all have the same amount of hours in the day. And we all have things that are pulling for our time, pulling for our resources, pulling for our energy. And it's our responsibility, no one else's, not your spouse, not your kids, not your boss, not your sideline, downline, upline, if you're a network marketing, but it's our responsibility. And so I thought I would just share with you. I wanted to share with you two things that I use, and I've been using these for years, because once it finally clicked, I was like, oh, this is so silly. Why have I not been doing this before? And I mentioned these are the two things I use in the shower. So the first one is a waterproof speaker, and most of us are taking a shower every day. Some of you, if you're like my husband, take 2 or 3 showers a day. And if you have littles right now, you're like, you know what, Martine, that's not happening today. It didn't happen today. It didn't happen yesterday. No shame. But you are getting ready for the day. And this is a time that I use for different things, depending on what I feel like I need most on that day. But having a waterproof speaker in the shower allows me to utilize that time, 10 minutes. And this is where we overcomplicate things. We think things like, if I don't have 30 minutes to sit down and read a book, then what's the point? If I don't have, an hour to go to the gym, what's the point? You fill in the blank there. We have this kind of all or nothing mentality instead of looking at our day and looking for the ways we can make these things work within our day, within our busy schedules. Because I'm not saying that you're not busy, because if you're a mom, that just kind of goes in with it, right? But what I am saying is we will make time for what matters most. We can make room for what matters most. And last week we talked about, what are some things that need to come off your plate? So this is an easy way to put something on your plate that will not interfere with the other things that are going on, because you're multitasking. And I don't typically encourage multitasking, because if you're like me, I'm a really great multitask starter, but I'm not great at finishing all of those tasks when I try to do multiple things at the same time. So, but this is one of those where it's just kind of a no-brainer. You don't really have to think about showering. You know what to do. You've been doing it for however many years you're alive, right? So the waterproof speaker helps me to get my mind right for the day. So I'm typically a morning shower type of person. I do my workout, do the shower. And so that's an opportunity for me to listen to a podcast or a part of a podcast. And by being intentional the night before, I can decide, okay, what am I going to listen to tomorrow? Whether I'm in the car or whether I'm going to utilize this waterproof speaker in the shower, like what do I want to listen to? And that way you're not wasting time scrolling through the podcast or scrolling through the books on audio to figure out what you want to listen to. So I listen to podcasts. I listen to, maybe you've invested in a course or a program and you haven't been able to carve out the time to even listen. And so you have this guilt weighing on that you've invested in this program and you haven't listened to a single video. You haven't listened to a single training. Well, utilize the time in the shower for that. Utilize that time. Maybe you just need to listen to some music and worship. I don't know about you, but music is life for me. It really helps me to get my mindset in the right place. So some days, and this is just being honest, some days it's 80s and 90s, some days it's hip hop, and other days it's worship music. And I'll never forget, and I've told this story before, I believe, on this podcast, when I was at a women's event and one of my roommates was getting ready for the day and she was listening to music while she was getting ready. And it was just one of those things I used to do that was fun, that was for Martine, that was self-care, that was something that just was just for me and no one else, was listening to my favorite music while getting ready. And every time I see her, I try to remind her just how much that helped me specifically in that season. But even now, just having a jam session in the car, or I had forgotten how much music lifted my spirit, how much music could put me in a good mood when I'm feeling down. And so sometimes I'm just jamming out in the shower, and y'all can have a great visual there if you'd like. But sometimes it's worship music, sometimes it's hip hop. And then right now I am listening to, so I'm really trying to get back into consistently reading books. And Audible has been my best friend, because I can listen to the book on Audible. And then if there's a book that I really like, then I'll order it, right? Because I'm typically a paper girl. So I like to highlight in the book. I like to take notes in the book. And, but Audible is allowing me to kind of listen to these books, while I'm doing other things, while I'm in the shower, listening to a chapter. And then I can decide at the end if I want to order the book or not. Right now, so far this year, I've listened to The Dip by Seth Godin. If you are in a season where you're feeling discouraged in your business, you don't know which way to go to keep pushing and keep trying to promote your business, or pivot and try a different business, or maybe you just want to stop business altogether. It's a great book that teaches you or helps you to kind of evaluate when you should move on and like when you should quit. And that quitting is not always a bad thing. I know we kind of have a negative mindset around quitting. I think it'll change your perspective. It's really, really short, thin. So if you're going to order it, you could order it's really thin book, or if you listen to it on Audible, you could listen to it in a day. So I've just recently listened to that, and I've read that 3 times. So it's a great book. And then the one I'm reading right now is by Donald Miller called Hero on a Mission. And I'm listening to that on audio, and it's amazing. He also wrote The Brand Story. Am I saying that right? I think that's right. I've talked about this book before. It's great for business. If you're trying to think about branding in your story, how to, put your story out there, how to share your story, have a compelling story. He's just really, really great in that book. But also this book it talks about the hero. Do you have a hero mentality, the victim mentality, the villain, or the guide? And how there are 4 characters in every story. And it's just been really good. I'm not finished with it yet, but I'm listening to that on Audible right now. And I'm listening to that in the shower. I'm listening to that when I'm folding laundry. Like, I'm utilizing that time, which again, seems obvious, but I think sometimes we overcomplicate it, or maybe you just forgot and you need a friendly reminder. So if you don't have a waterproof speaker, you can get them on Amazon. They're fairly inexpensive at this day and time. So get you a waterproof speaker and put that bad boy in your shower and utilize that time, whether it's a 5-minute shower, or maybe you like to take a 30-minute shower, and you can use that time to listen to books, listen to music, listen to a podcast, or maybe, like I said, a course that you've invested in. Even if you invested in it last year and you're still feeling guilt because you haven't even opened the first email, go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off and listen to it. No shame. So that's the one thing. The second thing is they're called Aqua Notes, and it's like a waterproof notebook. And you can get them on Amazon. Surprise, surprise. They actually have one that's called Aqua Notes, and they have another one that's called Aqua Love Notes, and it has a red pencil. So the pencil's waterproof, the paper is waterproof, and it's a little bit bigger than Post-it note size, but it just has suction cups and just can stick right up on the wall in the shower. And my husband likes to call the shower the revelation tank. That's where a lot of his ideas come from for his business. That's where he kind of works through hard conversations just mentally for him. And when something comes to mind, he can write it on that Aqua Note. For me, it's the same. If I'm listening to the podcast, or I'm listening to a book on Audible, or I'm listening to some music and just something comes up for me, then I have a place to write it down, because I don't know about y'all, but I can forget something 5 seconds after it came to my mind. That happened the other night at dinner. I'm like, there was something I needed to tell my brother, and I couldn't remember what it was. And it came up twice at dinner, and then it was like there, and then it was gone. So this way, when those things come up while I'm listening to a podcast or a book, or like I said, even music, I have a place to write those things down. So it's the think tank, and it's a place where, for the most part, again, unless you have littles, I know they're knocking on the door and they're trying to get into the shower, and you can't even use the restroom in peace. But most of the time, we have at least 5 minutes in there where you're not thinking about anything and no one's drawing for your attention. So it's a great place to have those Aqua Notes put up. For me, it's also a place if I want to write out affirmations for the day and have those in my shower to remind me of God's promises, encouraging quotes. Maybe it was something someone said to me the day before that was encouraging to me that I want to remember. Just, a way to feed that positive mindset. Remember, what goes in comes out. And so I want to be able to write out those mantras, those affirmations on the Aqua Notes. Write out quotes that maybe you thought of. There are things that come up in your mind, and it may not be someone else's quote, maybe it's yours. And you just want to be able to remember that because it was a really great idea. It was a really, really great quote that you want to share with someone else. And I've also used this for encouraging my husband, encouraging my children. So February is coming up, and you've probably seen this before, where they write something, what they love about the child each day through the month of February, and they use like the colored hearts, and they just tape them up on the door. So you could do that. Or you could use the Aqua Notes, and you could put them in their bathroom, right? And every day go in there and write something on the Aqua Note of what you love most about them. So I plan to do that again this February, and including my husband. And I'm a words of affirmation girl, and that's not their number one love language, but I don't know a single person who doesn't love hearing or seeing somebody write something positive about them to them. We feel these things, right, in our minds, and we have all these amazing thoughts about our children or about our spouses, but how often are we actually voicing it or even writing it down on a piece of paper so they can save it if they want? Again, as a words of affirmation girl, I have a folder that I've saved that have notes that people have written me of encouragement, because on those days where I'm wondering, what in the world am I doing? And am I making a difference in the lives of others? is what I'm doing even matter? I can go to that folder and I can be reminded. And that's not being, I don't know what the word would be for that, narcissistic or anything like that. It's just, it's again, a tool in my toolbox that helps me to keep a positive mindset on the days where I'm just not feeling that, right? I'm just not feeling like what I'm doing is mattering to anybody, or we all have those down days. And so do our children and so do our spouses. So I use the Aqua Notes for those as well. And it's funny, when we were living in the other home, my sister-in-law got married and we used our house for the place for all the bridesmaids to get ready. And so we had this huge bathroom, and of course they could see these things sticking up on the shower, and then they didn't look inside, but they're like, "What is that on your shower?" And they were all kind of placing bets on what they thought it was. And so I do use these. And honestly, since we've moved, I haven't used them as much. And this podcast is reminding me how much I need to bring those back out. But you can get those at Amazon. And again, it's just a great and simple way for you to encourage yourself and also encourage those in your family. So that's it. Just two simple things that as you are working through your goals for 2022, as you're working through setting intentions, maybe you're still trying to work through what your word of the year is. I think I finally have landed on mine. It's going to be new or renew. As you can see, I haven't landed on one exactly, but get an aqua pad and put that in your shower and just write down your thoughts. No one else is seeing those but you or your spouse. And you can even rip them off. Like after you've written it down, you don't want anybody else to just rip it off and throw it away or save it for later. But I hope this will help you to see that self-care and your personal and professional development, it's your responsibility. And there are such simple ways like this that you can bring that into your daily routine. And then it just becomes who you are. You're not having to think about, well, how am I going to listen to that book? Or how am I going to get reading it? I see all these people right now are on a mission, right, to read all these books each month or each year. And this is just an easy way for you to be able to do that with a waterproof speaker. And then you have your little waterproof notebook or notepad in the shower as well to help you write down the things that you're learning from those books. Or maybe a new song comes up that you want to put on your playlist as you're listening to other songs. But this was it. I just wanted to share a quick tip with you today. I hope that it will help you as you continue to crush your goals and really set some real intentions and some priorities for your business and for your life. And most importantly, for your own self-care, because again, all the other things are only as good as you are. Your parenting, your marriage, your business, your other relationships are only as good as you are. And you cannot pour from an empty cup. And if you're not taking this time and scheduling this time in that you're already doing, which is showering, to feed a positive mindset, there is so much negativity out there that it's just going to engulf your mindset. And if that's what's coming in, guess what's going to come out? It's going to breed negativity in your own world. And you're going to start pushing negativity out to your kids, out to your coworkers, out to those relationships that mean the most to you. And they have nothing to do with it, but because you haven't been putting positive in, you haven't been able to feed positive out. All right. Well, that's it. You'll have a great week, rest of your weekend. I look forward to upcoming podcast interviews. I have 5 or 6 ladies lined up to come on for Turquoise Talk. So I'm super excited about that, to help you with your business as a mompreneur, to help you with your self-care, help you with your New Year's resolutions, your priorities that you've set for 2022. So get ready. We have a lot of great episodes coming up. And thank you always for following the show, for sharing the show, and for sending me little messages and letting me know how much that podcast meant to you. Because of you, this podcast is such a fun thing for me to do and a great way for me to reach so many women with the mission that I have to burnout proof your life and your business. So thank you so much for your support. Love you, mean it, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.